Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. And wow, everybody know what today is. Today is Wednesday, which is 360 degrees of health. And I got my main man, Dr. Michael Mantell, back hosting another outstanding show. You know, it's always fun. It's always great. We have some absolutely fantastic guests, and we got one today. So I'm excited about this show, Doc. I am excited about this show. How you doing, sir?
Always good to be here with the two top people that we know, podcasting and everything else. And we do have a great guest today. And I know it's going to be a very vibrant and very useful, informative conversation that we're going to be having.
I am looking forward to getting this guest on. I've been talking to her over the last week and a half, and she is one absolutely fantastic person, doctor, author, mother, and you probably can add about 10, 11 other things to that. But, you know, we can't, Doc. You already know what it means. You can't do anything unless the executive producer
Here she is.
and co-host kind of give us her blessing. How are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm doing good, James. I'm doing great, Dr. Mantell. We had a chance to talk to this guest today, and she's going to be providing a lot of educational information. And, hey, audience, we welcome you to any the platform you're watching the show. Ask questions, bring in comments. This is a first for us. Some of the things she's discussing I've never heard of, but she's going to educate us. So we're really excited.
Yeah, I'm
We're all going
excited.
to learn. We are all going to learn.
We all are going to learn, and regardless, like what Michelle was saying, if you're watching us on E360 television, you're watching us on 55 live streaming platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and etc. If you want to be part of the conversation, just go to that platform. It's live. You can ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely wonderful guest?
Well, most definitely. So, of course, it's Wednesday. That means it's 360-degree health. And the title is Unlock Your Infinite Potential with Optimal Brain Health and Mental Wealth. We're going to have a conversation. Actually, Dr. James Cooley and our guest co-host, Dr. Michael Mantell, they're going to have a conversation with Dr. Balin A. Durr. She's a board-certified psychiatrist with more than 20 years of experience in child, adolescent, and adult psychiatry. She's going to discuss why does brain health matter and what is mental wealth. And talk about the science behind you are a star child. You are in the universe, and the universe is in you. And she's going to be talking about so many great things. So again, Dr. Balin A. Durr, she has provided care largely to the vulnerable, uninsured, and underserved in a variety of clinical settings. She had a groundbreaking role in providing telepsychiatry services for almost a decade and provided lectures to medical providers and taught students in physician assistant and nurse practitioner programs. She graduated from Emory University with a BA in sociology. She obtained her medical degree from the University of Illinois at Chicago, completed 9 months of pediatrics at Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx, New York, and completed the general psychiatry residency and child and adolescent psychiatry residency at the University of Florida. She's also the executive producer and host of Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot. She has released a podcast on addiction, depression, and suicide titled Today's Mental Health. And she's also a poet and author of Heaven Abounds in You, The Journey to Joy. So please welcome to our show, Dr. Balin A. Durr.
Hey, everybody.
Hi there, Balin.
Good to be here. Good to see you. It would say better to be seen than viewed, right?
How you doing, Doc? How you doing today?
I'm awesome. I am awesome. Excited about being here.
We are so happy to have you here. But we're gonna get this thing started. Besides what Michelle read, can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit more about you, where you grew up, why you're so passionate about what you're doing, and you know what makes you click?
So, well, I am Chicago born and bred. And it's interesting that part of my journey, which is just simply, I had a lot of questions, things I didn't understand, things that were confusing to me in my own childhood. And but my mother was one of those people that was kind of introspective and was like, you're looking at family patterns. And so without realizing it, I'm picking up some of these things from her, and actually looking back on it was actually watching some of that kind of programming on PBS. There was, and he was an addiction specialist and also a family specialist. And but I got inspired, wanted to go to medical school because I loved OB. And I thought it was the most amazing thing to be able to bring a life into the world. But when I got to the rotation in medical school, I love OB, but I don't like being a surgeon. And so I was like, okay, God, what you got for me? And psychiatry is one of the required rotations to become a physician. And when I got there, and I'm seeing the residents and I feel their energy. And I'm also, but you get to spend time with the patients. And I was like, this is my flow right here. So then I became a psychiatrist. And of course, retrospectively, because of my attempts to understand my own childhood, understanding that if I can make an intervention early, then we can fundamentally change people's trajectory. So I'm really passionate about alleviating people struggling and suffering, wanting to help them to make their lives better. And so here I am, that's taken a little different turn than I thought it was going to be in terms of being on platforms like this, because I thought I was just going to be seeing patients in the office. But yeah, I'm really passionate about the work I do in terms of, elevating, inspiring, awakening, and empowering people to live out their infinite potential.
It's interesting to me, Balin, that you wanted to be an OB.
Yes.
You wanted to bring life into the world.
Yes.
And as a psychiatrist, and myself in the mental health field as well, we do bring life into the world. We help people bring optimal life into the world. Okay, God or whoever you believe gave you life, and now we are here to help you make the most of that life.
Yes.
I have another question, and it's going to relate to the journey. We know today that the United States of America is certainly not amongst the happiest countries.
Or healthiest.
Pardon me?
Or healthiest.
Or healthiest, for sure. Yeah, right, exactly. We can go into that. But the data tells us that we are more depressed, anxious, suicidal than many seemingly almost third world countries when they look at the data. Now, we understand this is societal. We understand that some kids just don't have the breaks. They don't have the opportunities. They have all kinds of things going against them. Now, I get where you were born. My mother had a tremendous impact on me, my father, in Newark, New Jersey. My mother used to say all the time, you're talking it into yourself. You're just talking that into yourself. Who cares what they think? She was a better cognitive therapist than anyone I ever knew. But Balin, what was it inside of you that said, they're giving in to all of the stop signs in life? I'm not. I want to be a doctor. Oh, you'll never be a doctor. You can't be a doctor. What did you think that enabled you to say, the heck with those stop signs? I'm going for it. It's green lights.
Well, you know what? In all honesty, I didn't really have those kind of stop signs. My mother, the fierce goddess mother, Melanie Spears, she didn't take no mess, and she had a standard of excellence. So she is a black mama for sure. Her nickname is Peaches, and so you don't want to mess with Peaches.
Right, I get it.
So in that regard, there was always a standard of excellence. We were always well-rounded, meaning my family we were also athletes. I was a collegiate athlete. My sister was a collegiate athlete. My grandmother was an all-city catcher. So we had both the emphasis on academics in addition to athletics, but it was always about excellence. And also my mother was wonderful in the sense that she never expected us to be a certain something, right? It was just, okay, whatever you want to do with your life is fine. And then she would find ways to expose us to different things and then also support those dreams. So I never really, and then also obviously I had teachers who recognize what I say is everybody has their own brilliance. So I had teachers who recognized, my intellect and again, provided opportunities for me. So the only time I really encountered really kind of naysayers was actually after I graduated from college. I made a decision to become a single mother. And I got from a couple people, well, you shouldn't go to medical school. You should just take care of your child. And I'm thinking to myself, and that's not going to happen. I'm not waiting 18 years for that. Right. I understand that's what you think, but no. Then the other person was someone who just out of his jealousy, like, after having my daughter, he was like, "You're never going to become a doctor." So with him, I just recognized it was his jealousy about not being in a relationship with me. And right. So then it was just easy to dismiss. And, I think the real challenge, what you're really kind of getting at is the fact that children are programmed up until the age of 7 years old, right? They literally have brain waves that operate when they call the theta band. And it's like the band that's for hypnosis. And so they're being programmed, given a blueprint, and which then as you move along and become an adult is this subconscious blueprint from which they're living life. And it can be very challenging to overcome that, especially if you're not aware that you got a blueprint. And, I say some of us, we were given blueprint, for a mansion, others, just the 3,000 square foot house. But some of us got blueprints for a garage or an outhouse. So
and that's the key. How do we as mental health professionals reach those kids who believe life is filled with stop signs? Like I was programmed and I can't grow, I can't have, and how they use that to justify anger and depression and rage and anxiety. But I know we got a break, so I'm going to turn it over.
Hold that question, Doc. That's important. Hold that question until after the break. But Balin kind of got me on. Some people got a blueprint for right. An outhouse, and trust me, I know what an outhouse is. Yeah,
what do you think he's going on the break?
I sure hope he's got indoor plumbing by now.
I hope.
Hey, whichever platform you're watching us on, I tell you, you want to be part of this conversation, just go to the comments portion of the platform. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
Welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and my absolutely fantastic co-host, Dr. Michael Mantell, always come up with these great questions, and he put together right before the break, I think it probably was a 9-part question.
Come on, what am I going to do? One part?
but we gonna get to all of that, and hey, Balin, I'll tell you, you kind of got me because you kind of took me back, and you and I was talking yesterday about when you mentioned that term about in high cotton, and I said, you don't know nothing about the South.
And I was like, yes, I do, because I spent a lot of my adult lifehood in the South. In the South, yes.
I like the analogy about a person mindset. We have a blueprint in life. We have a blueprint in everything, I believe. It's all depends on where your mindset is at. You can have a tiny mindset blueprint where you mentioned the outhouse, or you can have a 5,000 square foot home, 3-car garage, all this. It's a matter of thought process and purpose and what's been instilled in you. So I'm gonna come back to that one, but I want Dr. Mike to re-ask that question because I was so interested in how you're gonna respond to it.
So let me rephrase. I'm going to reframe the question. We're talking about this blueprint, and that begins to sound a lot like what I hear from my clients and so forth, and heard from patients that I took care of for over 40 years. Mm-hmm. That is that it's my blueprint. It's where I was raised. It's the lack of what I had. I didn't give. My parents, they didn't give, they didn't have. And by blame mm-hmm. my failure and lack of having on everyone else. It's not my fault. Mm-hmm. So I can't go to college. I can't, get a career going. I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And this is a serious part of mental health in our society today.
Yes.
So how can we as mental health professionals break through that and begin to reframe that, redirect that, teach people how to think differently about the blueprint that they have?
So one, I would say, obviously what you're talking about is a sense of powerlessness versus having power. Two, as the son of my then project manager, his name was Christopher, and Christopher was 6 years old at the time. And Christopher said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him swim. And I said, look at the wisdom coming out of this baby.
Right.
And the reason it resonated so powerfully for me is because of the fact that, as a physician, if somebody's not eating, you can drop a tube down their throat, gotta force them to eat, give them calories. But the imagery of trying to make a horse swim is not something you can do. So I think part of the thing is we have to recognize that truth, that we can't force healing down a closed mouth. or a closed mind. So the other part to that, though, is, again, there's a sense of being powerless versus being powerful. And the other thing I thought about too during the break is when in terms of you were asking me about obstacles, the truth is I had obstacles, but you can see in my mind, I don't think of them as obstacles. That's, and I think that's the major difference. You know, when I'm in high school, I'm taking advanced math that ends in AP calculus, and I'm the only African-American student in that track for the last 3 years, because there were only 2 of us to begin with, and the first one was another girl, her family moved away. So that track was not easy. But as you can see from my mind, I don't see it as an obstacle that can't be overcome. So as you can tell, I'm pretty, you know, I'm dynamic, I'm powerful, I'm strong-willed, right? So my strengths are that I'm tenacious, and that I'm persistent, and that if I want something, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. You know, I tell people there were days when I was in medical school, some days I would sit down and cry, but then I was like, okay, we got to pull it together, and then we got to find a way. So I think the other way I say it in terms of trying to help people change their minds is this: if somebody breaks your leg, they're responsible for breaking your leg. But because it's your leg, you're responsible for healing it. Because you cannot sit and wait on the person who injured you to then heal you. It may never happen. You may be waiting till Jesus comes again and it's still not healed.
Right.
So there's that sense. You have to realize that while you didn't cause the injury, I have the ability to heal it, even if that means getting help. And one of the ways that I help people understand that is to say, we are always successful. You know, people talk about success and failure. Success and failure is a dichotomy because it is a split, a belief in separation from the allness that there is. And when you look at it, every time we make a choice, guess what happens? We always create results. So because we always create results, we are always successful. It's just a lot of times we successfully create some ish we don't want.
Right.
So I think first, if you can get folks to realize that you're making upwards of 60,000 decisions a day, and in making those decisions, you're making choices. And in making those choices, you're always creating results. And so are you making choices that's consistent with the results and the experience you want to have? Are you making choices that are consistent with experiences you don't want to have? And the only person who can change those choices for you is you.
Wow.
Good point. Today, oh, go ahead, JC.
You know, I mean, that was an absolutely fantastic point. I kind of want to move a little forward a little bit because you talk about brain health.
Yes.
Can you tell our viewers and our listeners exactly what you mean by brain health and why does brain health matters?
Okay. So simply, brain health matters because a body can't live without a brain. It can't. It's running everything with the exception of a few simple reflexes. So if it's running everything and something about it is not functioning properly, then something about the way you think, feel, do, or the way your body performs is going to glitch. And if you think of your brain like air traffic control, what happens when we got problems with air traffic control? You got 3,700 flights grounded. You got a plane on one runway that's about to take off and another one that's about to land on the same runway. So you potentially got a collision. You potentially got mid-air collisions. You potentially got planes running out of fuel and trying to find some place to land. There's all kinds of things that go sideways when air traffic command is not working. So your brain is the same way. We need to take care of it. we need to give it what it needs to function properly. It's like if you have a race car and a Formula One race car, and you want to pull up to the pump and put 87 octane gasoline in it and then wonder why it won't run right.
Well, that brings us to another question. That is, in terms of lifestyle factors that we do need to put into our machine, into our engine, into our bodies, our minds, our souls, in terms of diet and exercise and sleep and stress management and all the other things that we would be wise to be doing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So absolutely. So one of those things that I believe fundamentally is important also is identity, right? Who do I think I am? And what do I think is possible for me? Do I understand that I am uniquely designed and purposed, and it's different than you and somebody else? And so it's like, I tell people there's a lot of confusion because we look around and say, I want to be like them. I'm not like them. So I'm inadequate or inferior, or somebody else is telling you that because you're not like me, you don't do what I do, that you're inadequate or inferior. And, that's like saying that the liver is inadequate because it's not the heart. And the truth of the matter is without our liver, then the body dies. So you could have 5 hearts and no liver, and the body is going to die. Another way I say to think about that is as much as people talk down on the anus because it's the stinky job that nobody wants, let that sucker back up and see if you don't have some problems.
Right.
Right.
So you mentioned a lot about how we think about these things. And I like to tell the folks that I take care of, the idea is that you are not anything but a human being who performs well in some areas, doesn't perform well in other areas. Rating yourself globally is a big, big mistake. After the break, I want to come back and talk a little bit more about how we teach people to think about adversity, because that's so important. It's a growth opportunity. It's a builder of resilience. It's not something that breaks us down.
But again, that comes from out of who you think you are.
Right.
And for me, the difference for me is I don't think none of us are human beings. We are all energy that's arranged to appear in a certain way to take a physical form. And again, that's the basis of identity, but it's also the basis of possibilities.
The link is what you think, right, JC?
The link is what you think. Let's hold that thought, because we got to take some break. But hey, Dr. Durham, I gotta say that analogy that you use with the air traffic controller,
that's great.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant because I'm very familiar with air. I've been in the Navy 23 years and off into that area. I understand that the air traffic controllers are the brains to all of these different aircrafts that are out there. That's 1 minute, 30 seconds, or whatever. So for people that don't understand that, they need to understand. We're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back.
Absolutely.
Great co-host, Dr. Michael Mantell, and our absolutely fantastic guest, Dr. Balin A. Durr. So if you want to be part of the conversation, let's go to any platform. We got over 55 platforms that you're listening to live right now. Let's go to any one of those platforms. Ask any question that you might have. And I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
What if that road that you're taking's a dead end? What if love leaves you all jaded and broken? What if that limb breaks you're climbing out on? Yeah, what if it all goes wrong? But what if it all goes right? What if it all works out? What if the stars line up and good luck rains down? What if you chase your dream and it changes your whole life? Yeah, what if it all goes right? What if that road is a beautiful soul drive? What if that love ends up lasting a lifetime? What if that limb holds you oak tree strong? What if this time nothing goes wrong? What if it all goes right? What if it all works out? What if the stars line up and good luck rains down? What if you chase your dream and it changes your whole life? Yeah, what if it all goes right? What if you jump on a trampoline and touch the sky? Grab a cloud as it passes by. You might fall, but then again, you might fly.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be honored to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's your life, and just a couple of things that these two doctors here are absolutely fantastic. You got a psychiatrist.
All fire clothes on.
You got a psychiatrist here, and you got a psychologist. I mean, so it's like great having these discussions because we all need these discussions. We all need to understand from a mental health perspective, from a life perspective, that certain things that are embedded in us just because we grew up in a certain environment or we grew up in a certain situation. Your current situation is not your final destination.
Come on,
It's up to each one of us to figure out what's best for us and not just let everybody tell you what to do. And you want to take advice from these two great doctors, but you don't want to take advice from the shade tree mechanic out there. They're trying to be a doctor. You know? And so
Let's talk a little bit about stress.
that's where I was leading to, Doc.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was leading to you not taking advice from a shade tree mechanic who's also want to pretend like he's a doctor. That's going to create a whole lot of unnecessary stress. And I'm turning back over to you, Mike.
Okay.
On that.
So stress is a big word today. The idea is that everyone feels it in one way or another.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how it impacts our well-being, our physical well-being, and our emotional well-being. And another question is all stress bad? Now, We know the answer to that, but want to make sure our audience hears that from you, Dr. Durr. So how does stress impact our physical, emotional well-being? And is all stress really bad for us?
So again, and I alluded to this before, it's important to recognize that who we are and who everything is in the physical world is actually an energy being, or it's an energy entity. Everything in the physical world is composed of energy that's moving back and forth between a physical form and energy. And because everything is made of energy, it's all connected. And so we're interacting with the environment and influencing it, but the environment is interacting with us and influencing us. And also, it also explains why there's a collective consciousness. There's that we experience things and feel things, even if we're not directly in the area, the vicinity of what is happening, that we feel it and are affected by it. So what that means from a standpoint of stress, though, is that we are wired for a flight, fight, or freeze response to things that we perceive are threatening or painful or difficult. And it's one thing that if you see something or experience something threatening, then that threat goes away, right? Whether, it's a tiger or whether it's a car coming and you trying to get out of the way, or the stock market is dropping, or your rent's going up, or, your car broke down, you got a flat tire, you didn't bounce a check, whatever that stress is for you, then what's happening is the brain is releasing chemicals and hormones. And then those chemicals and hormones are affecting your cells and body. It's turning genes on, turning genes off. That's what epigenetics is. And by turning genes on and off, that determines what structures they produce in your body. So it's one thing to have that, some here, some there, but the problem with it being so consistent, the way we experience it, and certainly in this society, is that now you're producing chemicals that over time are going to damage the body and its structures. And then if it's damaging the structures, it's damaging the function of those structures. So that's the problem with that. It reduces our immune system, so we're more likely to get sick. And one of the things your immune system does is surveils for invaders. Is watching, do you belong here? No, you got to go. So but if that's suppressed, then you don't recognize invaders, whether that's, whether it's a virus or a bacteria, but also whether it's an abnormal cell that can now become cancer. So the other thing that's happening by suppressing your system is you're not regulating your blood pressure. So then that's going up. You're not regulating your blood sugars. So that's also changing and out of the normal range. So it also is causing problems with sleeping. And, sleep is really vitally important. Speaking as someone, of course, who is trained as a physician, you train not to get much sleep. But the point is, it has huge impacts. When you don't get enough sleep, it dysregulates some of the hormones that control your appetite. And also being under that kind of stress, you're tired, you don't feel good. So you'll overeat in order to compensate for feeling bad. And also because your hormones, there's leptin is the one that says I'm full. Ghrelin is the one that says eat. So ghrelin, just think of gremlins, right? Don't eat after midnight. So that stuff gets unregulated. So it's almost impossible to lose weight when you are sleep deprived. So that's the difficulty with being under constant stress. Now, the intermittent stress, as you well know, at times, the thing that I think of that's positive about stress is, of course, when we get challenged. There's that old saying, iron sharpens iron. And for the most part, a lot of human beings, we would just sit back and be a mass, doing not much of anything if you weren't sometimes getting things that that push you to grow and to transform and to adapt and to become more than what you were before. So that's the positive side of stress. But like anything, it can't be consistent. And the other difficulty with stress that's consistent like that is the body cannot equally grow and protect at the same time. One of those dominates over the others. So if you're in a high state of stress frequently, you're in a state of protection. I mean, just think about it. Like again, when a society or places under attack, you're trying to protect yourself. You're not developing the arts, right? You're not um, uh, building industry. You're not in a phase of growth. You're in a phase of protection. So those things that would contribute to your growth, again, in your body are suppressed, including like growth hormones. So that's the importance of stress. It's not just there's a chemical process, many of them that are happening in the body that long term are going to create illness if that's not interrupted and changes made.
So the concept of what we call stress, EU stress, euphoric stress, the stress that comes from, I won the game, I'm so excited. We have all this chemical reaction. It's important to be able to train people to have a mindset shift. Get that straight. Mindset shift. That didn't come out right. But the idea is when something seemingly bad happens, we don't know if it's bad. When I fell back in December and broke my knee, I said, thank you. And people around me like, what the heck is going on with that guy? Thank you. He broke his knee. Because I knew there must be a good reason this happened. I sure as heck was not going to make myself fill up on all of that inflammation and make myself sicker. No, the idea is to train people to think with that mindset shift. This wouldn't have happened except for my good. I don't believe things happen to me. Things happen for me. What do you think about that, Dr. Burr?
So I think that it's important for people to understand how things work. And that's why I tell people, I don't go out to my car every day and try to figure out how to start it. I know how to start it. And so because I can do it consistently, unless there's a mechanical problem, right? So I think that the challenge with saying with things happen for me instead of to me is you gotta help people understand that no matter how difficult something is, that there is an opportunity. As a matter of fact, the Chinese character for crisis is a combination of the characters danger and opportunity.
Right.
So it's not that what you're feeling is not harmful or what you're experiencing is not harmful. It's not that it may not have been dangerous. It's not that it may not have been life-threatening. It may not be any of those. And you have to look for the opportunity. In the Bible it says, how do I trade ashes for beauty?
Right.
So
right.
it's and you were asking, trying to get to this question before. That's a matter of that's what in part what resilience is.
Right.
It is the mindset, or also what I call is also part of what I call mental wealth. It is the mindset and the framework that understands that at some point things are going to go south on you. One of my big teachers has actually been space explorers and cosmologists, because they do things on such grand scales. There's these projects that, to develop the Pluto probe took 9 years. You're talking about millions of dollars, plus the time it took for the probe, 9 or 10 plus years, whatever it was, to actually get out there. And on top of it, if something breaks down, it ain't like you can call AutoZone or someplace and go, hey, you ship us a part. So you gotta, they know, they try to build in redundancy. They try to anticipate what's going to go wrong and then develop a strategy to deal with that. They're highly adaptable. and they also believe in themselves to figure it out. You know, when the Apollo 13, you know, they're like, oh, Houston, we got a problem. They had 2 different modules where the air filters couldn't fit in both of them. And so, and if you don't get rid of the carbon dioxide, the human beings are going to die. So what did the engineers do? What do we have up there? Took it and threw it out on the table and said, we got to make it work.
We got to make it work, and we got to take a break. You know, we're going to take a break, but when we get back, and that was all of those analogies from both of you guys are great. When we come back, we're going to talk about your book. We're going to talk about your show. And Ben got something as it relate to stress. He said, regulate balance and status. You know, I think he hit it. Stasis, whatever. Yes. I think he hit it on the spot. You know, but
we have a.
But we're gonna take a station break. We're gonna come back. I want to hear about your book. I want to hear about your show. I want to hear about a lot of things that you're doing to educate the world, educate your viewers, educate all of us. So I tell you what, you want to be part of the conversation. All you have to do is just stick around, stay in, smile, and come back. It's your life. We'll see you shortly at the break.
I've seen a smile convey I love you. I'm proud of who you are. The one that keeps us close when we're apart. Walking from the darkness of all that we've been through. It seems that there might be a way to leave behind the loneliness we've known and live again life of
Hello, welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's your life. You know, I love this guest right here. She got her own television show, own podcast, got it going on, psychiatry. I mean, just doing so many poet, authors. I don't know if she is a spoken word type of person, but I mean, if she is, I'm gonna have to challenge her one of these days in a spoken word contest. But you know, I want to talk about her book right now, and I'm gonna play the commercial, and then she's gonna come back. She's gonna explain it, and we're gonna go off into that one, and then we're gonna talk about her show. So here we go.
Heaven Abounds in You takes you on an inward journey of discovery that dramatically transforms your outward experience of life. Discover the power of belief. Utilize it in connection with science to create a vision of meaning and purpose that pulls you forward. Let go of the meager me to discover the magnificent me. Let go of your painful past and live life free from fear, worry, and stagnation. Experience an abundant universe as you powerfully create happiness, relationships, health, and limitless opportunities. When you heal your mind, all things are possible.
Wow. Hey, Balin, all things are possible. Can you tell and we got about 7 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
I really want to talk about your book. I want to talk about your show, and then me and Doc, hopefully we can get a couple of minutes in there to tackle you again. So tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about your book and about your show, and what can they expect to get from it.
So one, both the book was actually born out of the creator calling to me to follow this path. And, I thought it was just to be a physician seeing patients, but I was always drawn to people in ministry. And in the process of having those spiritual conversations, actually, even with a couple friends of mine, they both were like, "When's your book coming out?" And I was like, So but then again, we start to get these prompts, right? So I started to get the little tap on the shoulder, and then, the whisper in the ear and the tap on the shoulder. And I was like, you better start writing. And I, again, in thinking about Michael's question, really my biggest obstacle has been my own fear and my own disbelief. And the creator and I have had some conversation about that. He's like, you fear, you doubt, you disbelieve. And it's so in the process, I had read Conversations with God with Neil Donald Walsh. And there's like 3 or 4 of those books, and I've read them all. So when the creator and I started having those conversations, I immediately started writing them down. But I also, as I would watch other things or hear other people, I would get inspired, and I would just write. So it was, to me, as a process also of me working through, again, my own fears, my own doubts, my own limited beliefs about what was possible for me, what I'm here to do, and versus what I'm called to do. I'm like, I didn't, when I write very well, but it was always technical things and medicine related or things for school. It was not this kind of creative writing. And so what I did was I said, okay, and I'm still very fearful. I don't know how to do this, but Spirit does. And when I said yes to Spirit, then the content just started flowing in like 2 weeks. And I love writing. I write poetically. And the other thing I realized was, men are very visual. So if I could write in order to engage men, I'm like, I know women, so I got them. And so interesting enough, I would let some of the men read things, and they would and they would be like, where's the wrist? And or they would be that I could see myself in this, or they would just close their eyes and listen to me as I read an excerpt from the book. And people were like, did you like major in English or creative writing or anything? I'm like, no.
Hey Doc, how can tell our viewers and our listeners the title of your book? How can they get your book? And real briefly, tell them about your show, because we down about two and a half minutes.
So the name of the book is Heaven Abounds in You. That too came from a conversation God had with me, and he said that to me, heaven abounds in you. And so that's the truth of it for all of us. We are the infinite potential, like I said, energy of the universe arranged and appearing as us in this body, which is filled with the potential and purpose that we each uniquely designed and purposed for. And so that the work that I do is around that. The name of my show is Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot, where I say awaken and empowering you to live out your infinite potential, to live life in the sweet spot.
How can they watch it?
So the book Heaven Abounds in You is on Amazon. And then the show, you can find my show I'm on social media on by my name, Balin A. Durr. So BALIN, middle initial A, last name Durr, DURRMD.com. And you can see it on the screen, and the listeners, I just spelled it for you. So I have a YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. And so the show airs live on those platforms on Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then obviously it's, 3 p.m. Pacific time.
Wow. You know what? We want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And Dr. Mike, you know we got invited back on again.
Oh, for sure. This is not just a psychiatrist. This is not
No.
somebody you're going to go call and get a pill and say, come back in 2 weeks. This is someone who's given her heart.
So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. You are invited back if your schedule permit. I'd like to thank
Of course.
Dr. Mike Mantell.
And I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It has been a real pleasure.
And I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. But most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers, our listeners, for tuning into the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. Always, always dream big, think big, and be big at everything that you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's Your Life. We'll see you then.